Episode 9 of the Bmoney Beastin podcast. We are here with the man, the myth, the legend, Coach Catcher, Mike Catcher. Mike, dude, we met you. I remember. He don't remember this, but I remember you used to do those Baylor practices.
Well, I think I remember.
Yeah, you remember that? Yeah, down in the little dirty little dungeon room they had over there at Baylor.
That's right. Been a long
And
time
then,
coming, isn't it?
I guess from there, we didn't see you for a while. You were doing that, and then you kind of just weren't around for a little bit, and then you started doing the Boy Buchanan freestyle thing.
Yeah.
And we came around, and I tell everybody the story to this day how you walked in with like a Scarface suit on, like every day. And I was like, dude, you got to meet Hatcher. He's one of a kind, man. He walks in with like a scar. He looks like Tony Montana.
Scarface, that would be, I got one of a kind would be probably a pretty accurate way to describe me, I guess. I don't know. I guess
I've always said that, man. Like you're one of a kind.
All I know is that, you know what, your boy here, he knows how to warm up their guests right away by the looks of that shirt. You know,
well, I
think that Hawkeye shirt. That puts me. See, he knows how to put. He knows how to put the guests in a mood right away. You know, that dude. He can read the room. He's like, listen, I'm gonna wear an Iowa shirt. Just gonna make this interview really, really, really easy.
Yeah, you hear that, Bmoney?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that was kind of the idea. I was like, he's got like an Iowa, and he got all this Iowa stuff from Steve Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
Like Billy would outgrow it, and he'd like pass it down to him. So he's got like Iowa State, whatever.
Awesome.
But yeah, man, I want to hear like, I've always kind of been curious anyway. Like you're from Iowa, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so take us through like where you started wrestling, how you ended up at Iowa, like what happened from there, and how did Young Guns become a thing? Because like we're just curious of all of it.
All of it?
Yeah.
How long's this show? remember, listen, I'm no spring chicken anymore. I'll be 52 years old next month. So, you know, so we got a lot to cover here if you want to know the whole story. But with all the multiple stops, so you know, I'll kind of go through it. I guess it's kind of interesting. You know, I mean, I live a pretty interesting life, I would think, for a guy my age, and you know, obviously single with no kids kind of helps that out. So, you know, my responsibilities aren't too crazy, so I can live a little different lifestyle, but. I'm born and raised in Iowa. We grew up in a really small town called Ely. It's right outside of Cedar Rapids. And I think we had 300, just a little over 300 people in our town when we were growing up. So it's pretty much, you know, the normal small town Iowa, you know, growing up. And we, my dad wrestled in high school. So, and just, you know, wrestling in Iowa in general is just something that you do. I mean, it's, when you say it's the most popular sport in the state, people just, I don't think they really grasp it. Especially, you know, in the, I would consider Tennessee more of a non-traditional type of wrestling state, you know, the South in general. I don't think that you get, I mean, of course we have great traditions here. You know, we have obviously the Baylor McCauley stuff that you had mentioned before. Cleveland obviously has a lot of history there. We have some programs that have a lot of history in Tennessee, but like when you look at, maybe I just use Cleveland in you know, as an example. They're backing this, how important wrestling is in that town. Same thing with like Baylor and McCauley, the rivalry you have there, and then Bradley Central is right down the street from. That's basically the whole state of Iowa. I mean, it is. So I was really, really fortunate. I mean, we had small towns, bigger schools. Everybody has a deep rooted passion for wrestling in the sport in the state of Iowa. So I was very, very fortunate to grow up there, not only from a wrestling perspective, but you know, I mean, I would put Midwest people up against anyone as far as just overall character, you know. So my upbringing was really, really great. I got to grow up in Iowa. I got to wrestle in the state of Iowa as a youngster. I have a Filipino mother, so they're the most hospitable, you know, culture in the world. So I had a great mix there. And so my brother and I started wrestling when I was 5 and he was 4, and we just kind of took off. And, you know, we played football, played baseball, stuff like that. But wrestling was one that kind of stuck. So yeah, we did pretty good. Matt, my brother Matt was a much better wrestler than I was. He was 2-time state champ in Iowa, 4-time state place winner. I mean, he was really good. I mean, I had a good career, but I was nothing like my brother. I ended up going to Iowa. I actually didn't wrestle at Iowa coming out of high school.
Oh, really?
No. They would recruit. It's a funny story because Coach Gable, caught me in the sauna one time, and this was before I joined the team as my freshman year at Iowa. I would go in there and just kind of work out because we've been working out there. We'd drive up there. Cedar Rapids is only about 20 minutes away from the University of Iowa, so we'd drive up and get workouts and stuff. So we were used to using like the facilities. So we were in there, and I was in there like working out or something in the morning and just on my own, just whatever for lifting standpoint. Had no ambitions in wrestling anymore. I was kind of frustrated how my high school career ended. So I chose not to wrestle when I got to Iowa. I was just going to go and just go to school and pursue business and whatever and be social. And that was it. And eventually wanted to, to transfer to like Arizona State or something where it's a little bit warmer climate. But Coach Gable saw me in the sauna one morning and he's like, man, I don't know why you aren't wrestling. we recruited you all the way up till last year. And then Coach Kibble said he didn't want to wrestle anymore. He said, what's the deal with that? I said, wow. I wanted to win state last year and I didn't win state. So I'm just, frustrated with sport in general and just whatever. He's like, listen, it's not wrestling's fault. That's your fault. Don't be mad at wrestling. I'm like, I got a point there. So, we just had some discussions and eventually, long story short, I mean, I had some academic work I had to get, accomplished before I could get back into school in the second semester. And Coach Gable gave me some guidance on that. And then basically I had a choice with the second semester, whether I wanted to come out, and continue pursuing wrestling at the University of Iowa, if I want to keep doing it, or if I, just wanted to go and be a normal student. And I said, you know what, why not? Let's do it. So, so I ended up joining as a walk-on. So I walked on. It was a great 4.5 years. I mean, I wouldn't consider my first year a full year, obviously, because I wasn't on the team the first half of the year, but the 4.5 years I was there, it was just a great experience. Just the people that I met, obviously wrestling for Dan Gable, that was one thing. I was eventually, like when I went to college, I had nothing to do with wrestling. I'll be honest with you. I was really I started wrestling really competitively at a young age and I was burnt out. I just didn't really want to do it anymore. So I had no ambitions in doing it. And he kind of changed, really my whole outlook in the sport, but he'd always give me really good, I considered him positive plugs. He always told me throughout the whole time I was there, because then I started going down the education route. I want to become a teacher and a wrestling coach. And he always told me, he said, you're going to be a lot better wrestler or a lot better coach than you are a wrestler. That's for sure. I didn't know if he meant like I sucked at wrestling and I was just going to be as a coach, or if I was going to be a really good coach or whatever the case may be. But either way, it was nice getting encouragement from him, especially from somebody that I wrestled. I probably wrestled Coach Gable just as much, if not more, than anybody on the team. And that goes from my partners on the team and his partners on the team. He would like literally just grab me like 3 or 4 times a week and I'd get to wrestle. So I spent a lot of time with him and just under his guidance, just from a coaching perspective, it was the situation and just everything that I went through there was invaluable from an experience standpoint. Of course, I was one of Terry Brands' main training partners in his 93, 94, 95, like world team runs, that type of stuff. And the 96, obviously it didn't work out. Then Tom Brands, I was one of his training partners in the summer because I live so close. And so I got an opportunity to really, just see how it was done at the most elite level at the time. Seeing Tom Brands win an Olympic championship in 1996 was probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen, just because I was really close to the situation. I've been one that was, to help get him ready for that tournament. And I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. I mean, this dude that I wrestled with quite often. I wrestled Terry a lot more than I wrestled Tom, but I wrestled Tom a good majority, a lot of times too, as well. This guy that I've literally been training with just won an Olympic gold medal. This is pretty wild. So yeah, because we're all there as a team, in 96. So it's pretty cool. So that kind of took me, through my competitive career. And then I obviously went into high school coaching and eventually coached at the Division I college level and also the senior level. And, so I've had an opportunity, and I've always ran a wrestling club. That's the one thing that, when I say I pride myself in having over 30, I think I'm going on year 32, 33 years of experience.
Do you enjoy coaching?
I love it. Yeah, I loved it. I actually started when people kind of knew the numbers. They're like, wait a second here. That means you would have had to start coaching when you're in college. You can't consider camps as coaching. I was like, no. I literally had a wrestling club. I was a club coach for my high school, Cedar Rapids Prairie High School. I was a club coach, the kids club coach, my junior and senior year at the University of Iowa. So I would go and I would practice. We'd have practice at 3:00 and I'd be done at 5. And then I'd shower up, get in my car and drive back to my high school, 25 minutes away, sometimes in the blizzard snow, and coach the kids club 3 days a week. Yeah. So I had my very first team when I was literally a junior in college. So I ran the kids club my last 2 years there. And ever since then, I got a passion for coaching wrestling. I've never really tried to get out of it because I know I love doing it. And so I was that was my first coaching gig. So then I had 10 years at the high school level as a middle school, high school phys ed teacher and health teacher, head wrestling coach, obviously all those 10 years. And I kind of went through the whole, I went through a lot more difficult route than most Division I college wrestling coaches go through. Because I was coaching high school at the time in South Florida, and Eric Phillips and Heath Esslinger recruited me to come up and coach the Higher Calling Wrestling Club. Moved me up to Cleveland, Tennessee.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, so now we're getting into my journey is it took me a long time to get to, to where I was coaching in college, but
did you actually go up there to Higher Calling with them?
I did. I was coaching at Coral Glades High School in Coral Springs, which is Broward County, Fort Lauderdale area in Florida. And Phillips called me and said, I got a job for you. And I was like, what is it? So he explained it. It's a club job because Heath had just got the job. Heath and Al Miller, or Heath and Al Morris started the Higher Calling Wrestling Club the year before I took it over. So they started it as a feeder program at Cleveland, obviously, and they had like 300 kids like hanging off the rafters in the Jones Center. So they got
that number.
It was crazy. I mean, it was just like insane. Heath probably exaggerated a little bit, but like, God, I love Heath. But they had a lot of kids, and when I came in there, I had to trim the fat a lot. I mean, it was just one of those things. But get back to I got there. Philip said, "I got a job for you." He said, "We need a club coach to run our kids club and our off-season middle school and high school wrestling clubs. You interested?" I was like, "Well, how about teaching? We got a teacher job?" He goes, "There's no teaching." I was like, "Sign me up. I'm in. Let's go." I said, "Where's it at?" He said, "It's in Tennessee." Like, I said, "Oh, Chattanooga?" They're like, "Well, it's a little bit smaller town in Chattanooga." So they flew me up and kind of showed me the situation. I was like, it's about time I go and do that. So I had a great time there for 2 years, coaching with Heath Esslinger, who did a great job there. Eric Phillips, who was a middle school coach, and then I was a club coach. So we had the three of us. And funny story. You guys all know what Higher Calling is now. Just because with Boskin leading the way, but Boskin was actually my assistant coach there for 2 years.
So he was there when you were there.
Yeah, he was the assistant for 2 years of the Higher Calling club coach, Higher Calling club. And so then when I left and I went to UTC, so Heath got the UTC job. I went to UTC with Heath, and I started the Chattanooga Wrestling Club there in the that we just ran it out of McKenzie at the time, and that's how my whole Division I journey started, because he hired me as a volunteer assistant. And I was pretty confident that I was the only volunteer assistant in the Division I college wrestling at that time that was strictly a volunteer. Literally my first 2 years as his volunteer assistant, I made zero money. He didn't pay me one dime except for when we had our summer camp. Wow. I got the facility for free, so I could run my club out of there. And then I had my apparel and promotional products business as well.
I met Heath at we went to this UTC wrestling camp last summer with our high school. And he actually came in and talked to all of us. Mm-hmm. And he told us his story about how he came in there that one day in the McKenzie Arena and got his butt kicked by some of those Olympic guys. Mm-hmm. How he became there and how he got through UTC and becoming a good wrestler like he was. And he's actually a good guy.
Oh, Heath's the best. He's you couldn't have two more opposites on the spectrum than me and Heath Esslinger as far as how he's huge family man. He's
the yin and the yang. You got Scarface. Yeah.
At the time, I was much younger too. So I mean, it's like, my social life was a lot bigger, even bigger than it is now. And he's got 4 kids at home. He's, loves his family. He has all this stuff. And of course, he got my weekends, and I'm in Vegas for the weekend, it's a totally different deal, but we work so well together. And I treasure the time that I worked with him. It was the 2 years in Cleveland when I was a higher calling club coach, and then 6 years at UTC. I was 4 years as his volunteer assistant, 2 years as RTC coach. So I just I
got a question about that though.
Yeah.
In your first 2 years that you're at UTC, I know you own businesses and things like that, right? But that's hard to do something for that long a period of time and not make any money.
Oh, it was crazy. Well, the first 2 years, he didn't pay me anything. I was basically, so this is what my day would work. I mean, and this was, and I probably got this from Gable. I got this from, my parents, who are very, very hardworking. And I just love to coach wrestling. But I mean, I would be at all of our morning workouts, and I would have my morning individuals every morning for the college side. So we'd have guys coming in at 6 o'clock in the morning, if not the whole team. And then do that until whatever, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. And then I'd go and I'd work on my other business, for a little while, all the way through the day. Went to practice because I was in charge of the practices for the most part. I ran about 80% of the practices when I was at UTC and Cal Poly. And then after practice, I'd have club practice, or I'd have a private lesson come in before club practice, and then I'd have club practice, and I'd be out of there at 8 o'clock. Next morning, I'd wake up and do it all over again because I had to piece money together. I need the money. And plus, I just love the coaching.
Working 12-hour days for 2 years for free. But I mean, realistically, if you're able to do that, there's so much experience gained in that. I feel like that it's kind of maybe a good trade-off.
Yeah, well, it's just not. It was, and then at the same time, I was doing that as well. And then, of course, we had our competitions on the week. We had every one of my weekends was, I would say, out of the 52 weekends out of the year, I would say I was probably at a wrestling competition at least 40, maybe let's just call it 42. The other 10, wow. I was in whatever, Vegas or Caribbean. And I needed to get away because I was doing, obviously, the UTC. We had all of our competitions at UTC. And then I had my club competitions. So every weekend we weren't at a UTC competition, I would have like a little kids tournament I'd have to go to, or I'd have like a national tournament I was going to. But then on top of that, I was our state chairman back then as well. After my second year at UTC, I took over as state chairman, my first go around at it. So now I was committed to, and this is like some of the guys, we have a hard time finding guys to coach just one dual team, or one of our national duals team. Whereas back then, I would take the 14Us to Indiana, and the next week I turn around and take at the time it's called cadets. Take them to the cadet tournament, come back around, take the juniors to the junior tournament, and then 2 weeks later take a group to Fargo. So like my whole summer was like just taken up. So, and that was for free. I didn't do it. I didn't charge anything. I was just doing that just because and I still don't make any money, obviously, with the state chairman stuff. That's just, you don't make any money with doing that. It actually costs you money. So it probably cost me a ton of money over the years. So yeah, but I just love doing it. I think I hopefully impacted enough kids and hopefully provided some opportunity for them along the way. And yeah, so it was great. But the Chattanooga time, I had an amazing time, loved it. But then I moved out west for 4 years.
And you were still talking about Cal Poly.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I basically, so John Cerritos was on our staff for, I want to say 3 or 4 years at Chattanooga. We brought him back, and Coach Cerritos and I are dear friends. I mean, he's still this day. I mean, he's a dear friend of mine. And he took the head job at Grand Canyon University in Phoenix. So he went out there for a year, coach, and he said, I want you to come, but I've got to get the right position for you. So the second year he was there. And this was during the whole Division I that they were transitioning into Division I team at that time at Grand Canyon. So he called me and said, I got a job for you. So he offered me the club position out there, which was the NWCA club position. But we had like our situation at Grand Canyon was like a souped up club position. It was pretty wild what we had. But then I went out there for a year. But then so he finally got his staff together there. We had a great recruiting class coming in. The club portion of it and the Division I side of it were working basically hand in hand. And then they dropped the program because, obviously wrestling's not a big revenue sport. So, and that's a basically a for-profit university to where I think we're just a line item, so they dropped it. Yeah, they dropped the program like
they
a year.
built it up and got it all and then just dropped it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, the amount of money that probably was spent in Grand Canyon Wrestling for 2 years while Cerritos was there, because they were all in. They were all in. I mean, I know what his recruiting budget. I mean, now that I've been at 2 mid-major programs, and the recruiting budget, the travel budget, everything was, I mean, significantly higher than the other 2 universities I was at. That's ETC in Cal Poly. And then they just said, you know what? It's kind of funny because we kind of speculate, that the students kind of said, okay, well, we want a big fitness facility is what we want. That's what we want in the middle of campus. And our wrestling room was literally right in the middle of GCU's campus. So it was crazy. He went in, they dropped the program, and literally a week later, our wrestling room was cleared out and there was a bunch of treadmills in there. So we had prime location, I think, on campus. That probably had to do with it. But it was also a deal where it's probably a line item to where they're looking at, okay, this is a significant amount of money. It's not bringing us any money, so let's put it resources to other things. So they dropped that program, but then he applied for the Cal Poly job right then. So he took the Cal Poly job, brought me with him. So I was fortunate enough to be at Cal Poly for 3 years. My 3rd year there, we had our 2nd year in a row, we had a top 25 recruiting class. And what they're doing right now with that program at Cal Poly is just incredible. So I was just very, very fortunate to be at I would say traditionally very established program at UTC. And then also one that was literally, when we took over at Cal Poly, it was Coach Cerritos, Coach Todd Shavrin, who's in Chattanooga now. He's a huge wrestling resource. Yeah, y'all got to reach out to him because I love that dude. He's a dear friend of mine as well. And then myself, three of us took over the Cal Poly program, and it was literally, they didn't qualify for anybody for nationals, so we can't even say what they placed the year before because anybody there. I mean, they've been traditionally really, really, really bad for like the last 5 to 7 years. They were really struggling. So when we took over the program, it was just not a great situation. And now to see where the program was, and after year 3 when I was there, and then after year 5 when he started having All-Americans with Bernie Truax and Evan Wick and all that stuff, and now what him and Chewy are doing now, it's awesome. So I've been able to kind of see the inner workings of both type of programs. And then I came back to Chattanooga for 1 year, coached Kyle Rochelle for a year, great year. And then I decided to retire, just basically resign and retire from the Division I college coaching ranks. And then you asked about Young Guns. I didn't start.
I read up on Young Guns before you get into that. I was kind of reading up on it, and Jody how do you say that? Strip Matter?
Strip Matter. Yep.
Strip Matter. That he founded that. What was it? 2002, something like that, in that range.
Yep. They've been in business. I think it's the 20. I think we're year 21 right now. They're in right now. Year 21, 22.
Okay, yeah. So that's about roundabout. So it's really cool to see like an extension of something that's so big and known brought into the Southeast.
Mm-hmm.
So, how did that relationship form? Did you know him prior? How did
another interesting story. That's why I asked you how long a podcast we got here, because we really haven't gotten anything, But so after my year at UTC, my other job is remote, So my operations manager, she's just amazing. Shout out to my operations manager Charlene. She's just amazing. Anybody that deals with her just loves working with her. So she's been with me for years. So I'm basically remote. She's remote. She lives in Cleveland. Her daughter works for me. All of my decorators are spread out around the country. So I can do everything remote. So as soon as I resigned, it was during COVID, and I just started living other places. I've always wanted to live in like Mexico. So I moved to Mexico for whatever. So basically what my situation was, I always wanted to live in Nashville because I always loved Nashville. So I was like, you know what? I want to check out Nashville. So I'd live in Nashville for a couple months, and I basically start like these little 2-month training sessions. So let's say preseason training session for 2 months. Okay, X amount of money, whatever. We'd have 50, 75 kids that would come, and I basically, coach wrestling for 3 days a week. I already had pretty great relationships with the coaches in the Middle Tennessee area just because, my state chairman stuff and all that. And then after the 2 months was over, they'd go in their high school season, and I'd go to Columbia. I'd live in Columbia for a couple months. So I lived in South America for a couple months, and I'd come back for freestyle season, and then I'd start coaching freestyle season, and I'd coach for another 2-3 months, and then I'd go and live in Mexico, and I kind of just trot around. And I coached for a little while. Yeah, I was just all over the place. I was literally a nomad. I had a traveling mailbox. All my stuff was done online. I had a traveling mailbox company that basically answered all my mails, paid all my bills, stuff like that. And I'd go live wherever I want to live. And I loved it. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that?
Dream, man.
Yeah. So I think it was like the third time around when I came back and did another session. I think it was preseason session number 2. A lot of the coaches, the parents, and the kids that were coming to sessions consistently, they're like, "Listen, you need to start a wrestling club." And I was like, "Oh, man, I don't know, man. I'm kind of enjoying what I'm doing now." I said, "But you know what?" I said, "Let's do it. I'll do it. I'll make a commitment to it. I'll commit, and let's get it done." I think it's what Middle Tennessee needs to kind of bring everything together. So I was this was before we started a preseason session. It would have been now. I think I'm going into year 3 now with the Young Guns. So, and I was just going to name it whatever, Middle Tennessee Elite or just whatever. Sometime I didn't have a name or whatever.
Right.
And Eric Juergens, who's been a friend of mine I mean, he came in. I graduated Iowa in '96. He came in '97, so we barely just missed each other. And or actually, no, he came in '98. So I think we barely just missed each other. Jody came in the year afterwards. And so I got a call from Juergens, who I literally haven't talked to in I don't know how long. He's like, "Dude, are you in Nashville?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Man," because we wanted to start a affiliate club there for a couple of years now. And they say, "Oh, wow. You're the one to talk to." And they were like, asked me if I knew you. And I was like, "I've known Hatcher for 20 years." So I was like, "Yeah, I'm actually we're going to start this club, coming up here during the high school season." And, we just kind of getting things together. And I said, "I'm about ready to get it launched." And he's like, "Well, just hold on. Let's sit down and talk about this." So they were at Father Ryan doing a camp, and I was at the USA Wrestling preseason nationals, and I was on my way. I was leaving Iowa, going to Medellin, Colombia, and spending a couple weeks in Colombia before I started this next go around with the club.
Montana.
Yeah, so I rerouted my flight from Iowa, came back here to Nashville. Had a meeting with them, had a meeting with area coaches because that Eric and Jody were in town. So we had about 10 coaches that were there. Eric and Jody laid out this whole plan for Young Guns Nashville. And we were like, yeah, it makes sense. Let's do it. So we were like, "Yep, let's do it." Coaches were like, "Yep, let's do it." All I got on board. I was like, "All right." We went out, grabbed dinner that night. Next morning, I was on my flight to Columbia. And then I came down to Columbia for a couple of weeks, came back and started Young Guns Nashville. And it's been great. And that's because that was one of the things that was really important to me. Because the big thing that was really important to me was this, because I never wanted to start a club here that was going to be the Mike Hatcher show, because it's just not that those don't work. I mean, they're proven to work. I mean, they're these big clubs are you got one guy that spearheads it, and it's his project, or just a couple of their coaches' projects. And that's the way it was. I wanted no part. I shouldn't say no part. I wanted little part of the actual planning of it. So basically, so when Eric and Jody were here, they wanted to meet with me specifically. I was going, no. We're not going to do that. We're going to meet with me, and we're going to meet with as many coaches that I can get in the room together, and we're going to build this thing out together, because it's not going to be my project. It's going to be the whole Middle Tennessee area's project, and that's the only way I'll do it. And they're like, "Well, you think you get some coaches together?" I said, "I'll get them together." So we all met at Panera Bread in Brentwood, and a bunch of the area coaches, and we build it out and say, "Yeah, you know what? This is a great price point. This would be the great days of the week to do it. This would be this." Jody had his, input. "This is what we do in Pennsylvania. This is how our kids have gotten so good." Eric says, "This is what our kids in Iowa do." And we kind of build out our own model that works best here for Middle Tennessee. And we just hit the ground running and rolled. So
is there more than 2 Young Guns now?
Yeah, the original one started in Pennsylvania. So the one in Edensburg is where Jody's is. And that's where, I mean, if you just look at like the Young Guns alumni, it's like at one point in time, it was like half Iowa and Penn State's team were out of Young Guns. You're talking Spencer Lee and Chenzo Joseph and Jason Nolf and Megaludis, and the list and just keeps going. And then you've got, people sprinkled all over. Cam Simes, who was national champ at Cornell, was actually the very, very first Young Guns kid. He was in their Young Guns club in Michigan when they first started in Michigan. They only had Michigan for a while. So Jody went home to Pennsylvania, started that there, and then Eric started his in Iowa. And so now we have those 2 locations. We have our Nashville location. I think they have one also in small town Iowa. There's like 3 or 4. I'd have to look at the website and see which ones are going. I have enough on my plate running ours, but Yeah, we run ours a little bit different, I'd say, probably than the other ones. I mean, mine, and I say this over and over again to the coaches here in the area and anybody that asks me about it, we are a 100% supplemental club here in Middle Tennessee. It's not a deal where they're either a Nolensville Wrestling Club guy or a Summit or a Spartan Wrestling Club guy or a Brentwood High School kid or a Young Guns kid. They are a Brentwood / Young Guns Nashville athlete, or they're a Summit / Young Guns Nashville athlete. They're a Summit Wrestling Club / Young Guns athlete, a Nolensville Wrestling Club / Young Guns athlete. That's the only way I'll do it, because we have a lot of great coaches here in Middle Tennessee, a lot of them. And I would be absolutely crazy not to utilize them. Crazy not to have them back. And, basically what I just want to do is I want to find a common training ground for all the best kids in Middle Tennessee to go and that want to seek supplemental training. And that's just the way it is. I don't want to take anybody's kids. I mean, I'm friends with all these guys. I don't want to take any. I mean, and plus, from the kids' perspective, like the kindergarten through 8th grade perspective, the last thing I want to do is spend my Saturdays at a AAU kids tournament. The last place when people actually thought I was going to start a kids club when I first came here. And like some of my really close friends in Middle Tennessee were like, do you really think that he's going to be here? You're going to see him at 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday at a Pee Wee tournament? There ain't no way that dude's going to be there. And that's
Tony Montana, man. He's got to be in Columbia.
I have zero desire to do that. So.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you. So you've basically coached on a D1 level, a high school level, and a club, like a little kids level. Which one has been your favorite to coach at so far?
Well, and I've also coached at the senior level too. When I was at Higher Calling, I was doing the Higher Calling Wrestling Club. Chris Bono was the head coach at UTC at the time. So he reached out to me, and I didn't have a previous relationship with Chris. He reached out to me, knew I was in Cleveland, and wanted somebody to run the practices, for what at the time was called Sunkist Chattanooga. So I was very, very fortunate. And we actually had a really good team at the time. We had like Lloyd Rogers, Javier Maldonado, who's the head assistant coach at Little Rock right now, Israel Silva, on Team Mexico at the time, Nate Gallick, who was, 1-2 on the ladder at the time, and then Chris, who was always in the top one, whether he's a world team member, top 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Now he's the head coach at Wisconsin. We had a really good little team there. So I would go down there. I would do our practices in Cleveland, but I'd also run his practices. So I got a chance, obviously, to corner those guys, in the senior level. So I got to coach at the senior level a little while there too. Coach Bono did 2 years, 1 Olympic team run, 1 world team run. And so I've literally coached anywhere from a Pee Wee kid, a beginning kid that has never wrestled in his life, to like I was in Chris Bono's corner in the midi tournament finals against an ex-teammate of mine, Bill Zadek, tried to make an Olympic team. So it's a very, very wide range. And which one do I like coaching the most? I really, honestly, I'll be honest, I really couldn't pinpoint it. I've done some really fun things as a coach. I mean, like I said, all the matches that I was coaching in when I was coaching Coach Bono, that was a lot of fun. It was so like gripping and nail biting, because at that level, just the smallest mistakes in head position can cost you big, but I've also have a lot of passion for coaching literally like a Pee Wee kid in the 5th grade that never wrestled before, and he's seeking his first win and finally figures out when to throw a half Nelson, so, but now I've gotten to the point right now too. I mean, and I've coached, like I said, multiple NCAA tournaments, which is a lot of fun. But that's part of it, but also with the developmental side from just the total person. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example from the coaching perspective. Today, I was in my BNI group. Shout out to my Williamson County BNI group, largest one in the southeast part of the country. We're massive. We are the BNI group in the South. No doubt about it. But I put a plug into all my high school athletes, my high school in the Young Guns high school club, and said, hey, I'm in one of the biggest BNI groups in the country. It's networking. Kind of explained them what the networking part was. You guys, it's all about, creating connections and doing networking stuff right now. You guys are juniors, seniors in high school. You're going to have to learn these skills at some point in time. And so I had, you guys can come to the meeting with me as a visitor. So Kyle Nielsen, who's a junior at Spring Hills, 2-time medalist already, just an amazing kid, came to our BNI meeting this morning. And, all the visitors have to say, what they're there for, just kind of, and he has to go there and network. This is very much outside his comfort zone, and he crushed it. He absolutely crushed it. I have people that are like the highest at the highest levels of insurance sales, bankers, real estate agents that are coming to me and saying, that kid that you brought today is just an amazing young man. And that makes me just as proud. And it's just as fun to see stuff like that as it does to coach wrestling anymore. But
well, at a certain point, this whole thing, we all know it. There's a shelf life for everybody with this.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
So some kids, it ends after 5th grade. They're like, hey, this ain't for me anymore. And some kids, it ends after middle school. And some kids, it ends after high school. And some kids go to college for a year. Hey, this ain't for me. It ends at different points in time for everybody. But we're all like really passionate and care about it. And like, I think that when you can transition, just like you were saying, young people into environments that maybe they don't feel comfortable with, but can help them gain skills that they can use in their life, that may be that may be even more important than learning when to throw a half Nelson, as you said.
Absolutely. But I will tell you this though, when you get kids that excel in wrestling, there's really not much. It's just it doesn't matter what level. I mean, it really doesn't. When you see like the reaction, and if you're in it and you're doing it for yourself, I mean, you got a shelf life in it when it comes from a coaching perspective. But if you're ultimately doing the kid, and I consider myself extremely important. I'll be 52 years old next month. And for 30 plus years of my life, I feel like I haven't worked a day, honestly. Ever since, even when I was teaching and coaching wrestling at the high school level, it's like, this is work. You kidding me? I love doing this stuff. I love interacting with kids every day. I love, doing my part as far as, hopefully making them, productive members of society. Now, it's like, with my experience, I think I can charge and what I've done from a wrestling perspective, from a coaching perspective, I might be able to charge a little bit more, and I make a good living doing it. And I'll never, back down from saying that, I run a business, I provide elite, secondary, supplemental wrestling instruction for kids, and it's worth a price tag, and so I don't, have any qualms about that. I do well there. I do okay with my other business. And I honestly don't wake up in the morning feeling like I'm going to work. I got practice, in an hour and a half. And so it's like, yeah, I get to go to practice. I get to see whatever. We'll have 50, 60 kids there tonight, and yeah, it's great. That's it, if I can work and make good living, just doing something I'm passionate about, it's just, yeah, I live a great life.
I love it, man. I appreciate, you got any final questions for Coach Hatcher before we wrap up? Dude, I appreciate you taking some time and just talking to us and telling us your story.
Oh, I love what you guys are doing.
Man, our biggest thing right now, and I think Quan Tall's reached out to you, hadn't he? Yeah, like Matt Clash. He texted me right before we got on. He said, dude, I'm building a new character.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so like it's constantly growing and like building and evolving. Yeah. So like, that's pretty cool. But like the podcast deal, like what's up? Nothing. I feel like the podcast deal, it's a way that we can, communicate with people in the wrestling community and learn their stories and how they become involved and things like that. Because we had Jennings on a couple days ago.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Randall is doing an amazing job.
He is killing it, dude.
He is doing a great job. He really is. And that's, and then maybe that's another, podcast we can get on here. I love to, right now I feel like I'm promoting, Young Guns Nashville and the great kids that I have that in our program there. But, one other thing that, that's very, very, that's one of the big benefits of not really having a real job, I guess, is the fact that I have time, to give to volunteer organizations, not only, obviously I've been the state chairman for, Tennessee USA Wrestling for a good minute. And I enjoy doing that because I know that, I always try to take whatever opportunity I can to brag on our board of directors that's involved in that organization, that volunteer organization. I love it. I think it's awesome. And I'd love to maybe get back on another show and just where we take it totally off of what we got going on at Young Guns Nashville. And we totally, gear it towards Tennessee USA Wrestling. I think we got a lot of great things, and we got an amazing amount of people that are involved in that program. And I'd love to give them the shine too. And we also have another 501c3 nonprofit organization here in Middle Tennessee called the Youth Wrestling Alliance in Middle Tennessee that helps raise money for some underprivileged areas here in the inner cities and metro areas of Nashville that provide opportunities with that too. So that's one of the things that we started last year. So yeah, we got a lot of good things going on. Those are the, so I enjoy doing that. I have the extra time to do, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, let's after this, this has been great. We got the backstory of the original Tony Montana himself. And you even gave it away even more saying that, hey, I went and coached and then I jetted off to Columbia. So that just like solidified Columbia. But
yeah, well, Tony Montana was doing things that I've never even done in my life. That's for sure. he was racketeering and peddling something that I've never even. I mean, even like the step down from that, which would be the stuff that's legalized in a lot of different states. I've never even done that before. I've never touched that before. So, I mean,
I would love to get back on and talk to the whole Tennessee USA, and because I've actually watched you guys kind of grow over the last couple of years, and I think at one point I was like, man, Georgia like cut us out or whatever. So I texted you and be like, man, you're like 5 minutes over the line.
Yeah, I know.
So like,
too bad because like guys like this, I'd love to have them in the state of Tennessee, and that'd be great. I've got to say, I've got to look at it from, I got to look at it from the other states' perspectives and stuff, and it's just, so it is what it is.
Luckily, that whole youth, and then when you get into like, the freestyle Greco, like Sean, right? Like we go up and train with Sean, 4 days a week, right? Mm-hmm. He's in Tennessee and we're in Georgia. So it's like
you got a resource like Sean Russell, that's close enough to striking distance. You get there. That's just the way.
Yeah, it works. Sean's there, and then Pitts is still down here running Grindhouse, and so we do have a good nucleus down here in North Georgia. But I would love to do an episode again with you with USA Wrestling, and I would love to hear about how it's grown and where it started and all that good stuff. We'll definitely set that up. Yeah. Mike, I appreciate you spending 42 minutes with us, telling us all about yourself. And
I feel like we didn't even get anything. I mean, I would rather talk about. I guess that when you get to be my age, I guess that's just kind of how it rolls. You got a lot of life experiences. And
dude, it's been awesome, man. Like we learned a lot here that I knew some stuff you've told me over the years. And I just think you filled in the gaps. And I think everybody will find this very fascinating because, dude, everybody knows Hatcher. If you wrestle, you know Hatcher. And you might not know why or how you know Hatcher, but you know Hatcher.
Yeah.
So, originally when, I'd heard of you before I met you. And, Nathan Murdoch, he brought you up the first time I ever heard your name.
Yeah.
And he goes, Drennan, man, he goes, you got to start coming to Baylor. I was like, what the hell is at Baylor? He's like, well, Hatcher's there. I was like, well, who's Hatcher? And that's kind of how that whole kind of thing happened. And now, we've been buddies, and you even let me borrow your parking pass when I was up there.
Yeah, you already know. Yeah, I know. Okay, maybe Coach Gable was right. I think my any type of recognition I have gotten, it was 100% from the coaching perspective. I was not nearly the athlete as a lot of these guys. I had to kind of, grind my way through and I mean, it was a long. It was funny because when I was at UTC the second time around, I was like, wow, I'm one of 77 Division I college head coaches in the country. And this is pretty awesome. And I was looking back at my long history of it, and I was like, well, shoot, about damn time, I guess. I've been doing this since high school. I've been doing this for 25 years. Shoot, I mean, I would think that most of these other trajectories don't last this long. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like to, I've never been one. I could never tout my I guess my competitive pedigree or my coaching pedigree, that matter. I just try to be a good person and try to treat people the way I'd want to be treated and try to build relationships and continue to not only build relationships, but continue to cultivate them. And I just like people in general. So I like being around people. So,
I'm with you, man.
You guys.
Yeah, dude, we love you, man. And we appreciate the time. And
of course,
this week sometime, find some availability and we'll plan it back out. Usually, Wednesdays, Fridays. If you ain't got nothing on Saturday, early in the morning, we could hit one, and we can bring everybody on from Tennessee USA Wrestling and just kind of hear it all. And then as we go, we'll start adding reels and things on Instagram, try to promote. This time I'm gonna promote Young Guns Nashville and be like, hey, they're there, Mike Hatcher, that kind of thing.
Well, I am going to give a quick shout out though for my club. I mean, here's the thing. I talked to you about our concept here as far as being a totally supplemental wrestling club here in Tennessee or Middle Tennessee. And not only have the majority of the coaches in the area embrace it and are very, very supportive of what we're doing there, but the kids that we have that are coming to our practices consistently. I mean, we've had anywhere from, the Summit kids who are Fargo National or Fargo All-Americans and nationally, really credentialed kids from anywhere from Jarvis Little and Landon DeSalle, guys like that, to Trey McTorrey, who's, state champ last year from Nolensville, but I mean, not just, it was not an elite. It's not just an elitist type of training center. It's a training environment for anybody that wants to get better at wrestling. That's just the way it works. I mean, because the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. So we have kids that literally, have not made a varsity lineup yet to this point that are getting really good. I mean, it's just, they're going to make a name for themselves very, very, very soon. And we got kids that, that come from programs that aren't like your big box programs, the kid that I just alluded to, Kyle Nielsen, he goes to Spring Hill. Nothing against the program, but they just, it's never been a traditional powerhouse down there. It's not like going to Macaulay. I mean, so he's had to earn his stripes, but he doesn't miss practice ever. He goes to all the camps, he goes to all the competitions. He's already placed twice as a junior. He's got, Division I schools are recruiting him right now because of our camps and the importance he puts in the sport. You got kids like Cash Waymeyer, same thing, comes from Brentwood Academy, never misses practice, is always there. Reed Lawful, Brentwood, high school. I mean, and then we got a good slew of young kids, Carter Brothers, the Shipmans. We just got a lot of really good kids and coaches involved. And our coaching staff, I mean, and nothing against all the other ones. I mean, me, I'm in Tennessee USA Wrestling, chairman. So I love everybody and all the coaches in our state. But I put my staff against any of them. I mean, I really would. And you can take me out of the equation. I'm talking getting everybody in the area involved. And that's always been very, very important to me. I'm not alienating any coaches, any kids whatsoever. I want everybody to come together for the betterment of Middle Tennessee wrestling. So the last time
I've seen you was at Deep South, right?
Yeah, we're at Deep South.
A couple months ago.
Yep.
We wrestled that team. We got picked up on some PA team or something.
Yeah.
And you had some tough kids, man.
Oh, we're getting there.
Yeah, had some tough kids. Hey, even your match was tight, dude.
Yeah, we're getting there.
I don't know who that was, but he almost put you on your back and you just got freaky, stupid, agile or something.
Freaky, stupid, huh?
Barton, yeah. He wrestled that Nolan Barton.
Nolan Barton. Oh, yeah. Nolan's coming around.
He's tough, man. Yeah.
He's tough. You're darn right. Yeah. Nolensville, I tell you what, Nolensville is going to have a good team. Ravenwood is another one that's a very, very prominent up-and-coming team. I mean, don't sleep on them. Of course, Summit's got a great program here in Middle Tennessee. Brentwood's always had a great program. They send a lot of kids. It's just, we got a great thing going on here. We really do. And I'm really proud of it. Really proud of the kids that are involved in our program. The parents, obviously. And we just, and I don't know if you knew this, but we just got the P&L here this past year.
I read that today.
Yeah, so we have our first P&L competition coming up here in a couple weeks, or not this weekend, but the following weekend in Indiana. So we're really excited about that, and that's just going to be a whole other level of opportunity that we're going to be bringing to these kids in Middle Tennessee that just want to become good. They just want to be good at wrestling. That's what they want, and we got to give them the same opportunities as the guys at Izzy Style and M2 and Young Guns Pennsylvania and Valiant and all these guys. We got to give them the same opportunities, and see what they can make out of it. So we're excited about what's going on here. We got a lot of work, but we're doing all right.
Awesome. Well, Mike, dude, I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah, man. And we're going to do this again in the very near future.
Yes.
You got any final questions, Bryson Noah?
Nope.
Bryson, it was really good seeing you, man. I always miss seeing you, man. You're one of my favorites. It's always awesome seeing you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love seeing your passion for the sport on your social medias and just I love what the two of you are doing, not only with this podcast, but the Bmoney Beastin and the products that you're pumping out, and just I've got to get my kids on those cards. I got to get my kids on those cards. Sure.
I'm telling you, they'll like them.
They'll like them. Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah, I love what you guys are doing.
If you want to buy a mat class, you can buy it at bmoneybeastin.com. $15.
There we go. Put that plug in.
Episode 9, Coach Hatcher, the man,
there you go.
The legend.
Oh, far from the legend. What's that?
I said, episode 9, the man, the myth, the legend is
in the books.
In the books. There you go.